So my first question is, why reading is important for English learner?
Oh, well, reading is important for everybody, and particularly for people who are learning another language, because I think it helps you understand the language more. It helps you improve your grammar, even your pronunciation. The more content you're reading, the more of a cultural understanding you will have, depending on what you're reading. And it certainly will help you just in your life in general to gain knowledge. So I can't think of anything more important, a more important skill than reading. It will certainly help you in all other skills.
I see. Even the speaking also.
I think so. I think so. It will help you because you'll be learning new words. You'll have a greater understanding about certain subjects. So it will help you, and therefore improve your speaking because you will have more things to talk about with other people.
Yeah, and communicate to each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's great. Yeah, great things. How to improve my English skill by reading a book?
Yeah, so I would say probably the first thing is to be an active reader. So when you're an active reader, you take notes of what you read, you try to summarize, you highlight, right? So that really helps you to remember what you read and to review. Right? So I think it's very important. I know for myself that in my personal life, I've seen a lot of when I used to live in other countries, some of my best friends learned another language just by reading comics. Right? So,
I understand. Yeah. Reading comics is good for speaking English.
They learn very quickly too.
Yeah.
So they would read comics all the time. They would discuss it with their friends, and then they picked up the language very quickly.
Yeah. So how many people? We are going to make a book club. Then how many people is the best in a group for discussion?
I don't know. Well, one-on-one is always good, but in a conversation, you mean a group discussion?
Yeah.
I would say anywhere between 4 and 8 people.
4 or 8?
4
10
to
is
8
too much? Do you
people.
think 10 is too much?
Well, if some of the people, if it depends on the mixture of the group. It depends on the people of the group.
Has a personality.
Right. Right. So if they're, if it's half of the people are very comfortable with speaking, and the other half are not.
Yeah.
That's maybe an optimal or an ideal combination.
Yeah.
If you have 10 people that all like to speak, that's a problem because then everybody's going to talk about at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the dynamic of the group.
Okay. There is more than one person in the book club. It can be possible.
There's more than
if there is more than one person, only me and you. I can call it book club. Can I call it book club?
Can you call it
a book club?
A big crowd?
A
book club. Excuse me. Yeah, why not? I mean, if both people are doing their homework and they're reading, sure. Why not?
Yeah, it's good.
Why not?
Yeah.
As long as everybody's reading and you have something to talk about, of course.
Okay.
The more the better, of course, because then you have different viewpoints about what you're reading. But 2 would certainly be enough. 2 is better than nobody.
So do you think that the English learners book club need a teacher or a native speaker to help them?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
My initial reaction would be no, you don't need a teacher, because I think if you had a native English speaker there, then they might try to dominate the conversation, and you don't want that, right?
Yeah.
Good morning. So maybe it would probably be better if you had maybe someone just come for maybe 10 minutes to get this class or to get the group started, but then they leave. Or just have the students do it by themselves. Maybe because I think one thing I know as a teacher is sometimes silence makes teachers nervous, right? So then they overspeak when there's silence. But it's better for students to try to figure it out on their own, right? So just try to start the sentences themselves.
maybe to get started, to put everybody in the right direction, if everybody, if people don't understand what a book club, the concept of the book club, right? I think the concept has to be really made clear and understood, and then maybe the instructor can get everybody started, but maybe it's not necessary that the instructor is there all the time.
Okay. So, but if there is a not teacher or native speaker, but do you think there is a leader in the group to lead a discussion?
That would be, well, you know, I understand what you're saying, that it's better to have a leader to lead the discussion.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think if you have a group of people, you might have, if one leader could be detrimental, because maybe there are 4 leaders. So you want everybody to get a chance to kind of lead the discussion.
Okay, that's
so
good.
Maybe you could have one person one week, another person another week. So everybody gets a chance to kind of lead the discussion. And you can certainly have 2 people at the same time leading the discussion.
That means the member learned some leadership skill in the book club also.
Yeah, and you could learn as you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, learning on the job would be fine. You know, you might not have any idea, have any leadership skills, or not think you have any, and suddenly you find yourself leading that discussion. So you might not know you have any, and suddenly you're in a discussion and you find that you do have leadership skills just by doing it. You know, on the job training.
On the job
if you
training.
will.
Yeah.
Right? You might not know it.
Yeah.
And you might find out you have great skills, but you don't like it. That's also fine. But you don't know unless you try.
Yeah.
And you might think you have great leadership skills and find out you have terrible leadership skills.
Yeah.
Or find out the areas that you need to improve.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to find out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. To learn a lot about your particular situation, what skills you have.
Yeah. Yeah, book club can be great for
I think so.
the life skill.
Absolutely. Also.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely. Also.
Okay. Sometimes it's difficult to speak up, especially with English.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it was Japanese, my language.
Yeah.
I become too talkative, but when I have to speak English, I become too very shy.
Yeah.
So, I want to know how to make a good conversation group.
That's a good question. Yeah. Well, the first thing to always accept when you learn a new language is that everybody feels that way, right? So my second language is Spanish, and I know when I speak in Spanish, I get very nervous. I get I get nervous. I'm not sure what to say. You come in. I don't know the vocabulary sometimes. But I'll just relate a story to you that my parents always tell me, because my parents used to live in Europe for about 10 years. So the joke that my mom always tells me is that my dad wanted to learn each language that he went to, like Spain or France, and learn Spanish or French, very specifically, like in very correct pronunciation. So he would go through and he could only speak maybe 5 sentences, but they were perfect, right?
Yeah.
But my mom didn't really worry about pronunciation. She just wanted to be more fluent. So she wasn't very accurate as far as pronunciation, but she could speak really fluently and she could talk to anybody, right? So it's probably better just not to really worry about pronunciation in the beginning and just try to say as much as you possibly can about something, and then encourage others to be like that. Don't worry about making mistakes, because we all make mistakes, right? And then the other thing to do is maybe there are a lot of worksheets you can get which have sentence starters, right? So it gives you the beginning of a sentence, like I believe that, and then you fill in the rest of it, or I feel that, and then it's a good way to start a conversation.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
great.
then if you're off campus, right? If
Yeah.
you're not on campus and you're over 21, having a bottle of wine is always a good way. Sharing some wine with some friends. Yeah, it's always a good way to loosen people up a little bit so they're not so afraid. But of course, if you're over 21, if you're under 21, don't drink.
I see. Or your recommendation, a book for English learner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in your experience.
Yeah, in my experience. Well, I really like the classics, but not too far back in history. So I really enjoy Hemingway, Ernest Hemingway.
Yeah.
Because one thing, he writes very simply, so it's easier to understand. The sentences are short, but the stories are interesting. Right? So you could read like The Old Man and the Sea, or one of my favorite books is For Whom the Bell Tolls. It's about the Spanish Revolution. Not Revolution, Spanish Civil War. It's the Spanish Civil War before World War II. So it's really interesting. And it's very long. I think it's like 600 pages. Right?
Oh, it's too long for me.
But if you break it down like over the course of maybe 6 months and you just read a little bit at a time, the story is very impactful. So I think Ernest Hemingway is probably one of the best ways for native English speakers to learn about fiction writing or prose writing, and then also about character development, because he has a lot of very interesting characters, and then it's easier to read because the sentences are shorter. Right? So,
Yeah.
How many members are there? How many members?
We have so it's open to everyone. We buy the books, and then anyone that's interested can just pick them up for free. And then we meet once a semester to talk about the book, and we have about 10 to 15 people each time to come and talk about it.
How do you get together the people?
So we do it during Flex Week, which is the week before school starts, so that people either have the summer to read the book or that they have the winter break to read the book. And we reserve a room. We let people know the meeting times. Anyone that shows interest that wants to be added to a mailing list, we add them to that. And so then whenever we set the date and the time, then I would send in a mass email to those people so that they know where that would be.
Oh, I see. I think we will come the place.
Yeah.
Something isolated.
Yes.
To discuss more loudly or
so
comfortable.
I think a great place where you guys would be able to meet. So I don't know if you guys know, but we're moving. That's why we have all these boxes. So we won't be here anymore. We're moving to that one building that's in that parking lot, like out in the parking lot. It's called. They're gonna change the name to the C100. So we're going to have a conference room there. And if you guys call us to schedule, you guys can reserve that conference room. And it's perfect because it's going to be in that circular form so everyone can kind of gather around the table and then talk there. And it's a nice, quiet place for you guys to be at. Like I said, you would just have to contact, you can contact me or one of my other colleagues here, and then we can help you reserve that.
How many members in the group is the best, do you think? To discuss more comfortable.
Yeah. I would say about 10 to 15 people, maybe like 20. Just because that way everyone has a chance to like really talk about the book. We meet once a week, once a semester, but if you want to meet like once a month, that way you can maybe say, read the first 2 chapters by this day and then we'll come talk about it. Because what we do is we discuss the book as a whole at one time. But if you want to break it up each time, that way you really get into the book, or you can meet once a semester too. Yeah, but about I would say maybe 15 people. That way everyone has a chance to talk.
So who chose the books?
So I came up with a list of different books from different separate groups, and then during one of our staff meetings, we all just kind of voted on it.
Voted?
Yeah, so we all vote on it.
I see. Oh,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Yeah. Oh, so you research the book in the internet or something, then did you pick up some books?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, I kind of just got ideas like, well, I want to learn more about non-traditional students. So I kind of just Googled books about non-traditional students, and then they pop up different books and then also a summary. That way you can kind of get an idea of what it's about.
Yeah.
So I just copy-pasted all of that, and then we voted based on the summary.
Oh.
What are the difficult points while you are running on book club?
The difficult
Difficult points.
I think it's advertising, just getting people to come out, because sometimes more people show up than for other times. So kind of trying to I would recommend getting a book that would make people want to read it, and then really advertising, posting up flyers, letting people know about it, just to get people to come.
Oh.
And what is the benefit of book club?
The benefit for our particular book club is that you get to learn about the different groups that sometimes we don't get to learn about unless you read about them, and then that helps the campus as a whole, building that community, helping people kind of understand each other, because once we understand each other, then we serve each other better. So I think that's one of the things.